Hello everyone, welcome to week 7. And today's topic is event driven programming. We're going to be continuing with JavaScript only and learning some very cool functionalities with it. And before we start the recitation, I just want to say I think your marks for exam 1 should be out here. I was very happy with the performance and the work all of you put in. One thing I would say, I noticed a pattern while grading your exams was like people weren't able to reach the final question, or like I think they didn't have much time left to solve it. So please take care of it, like in further exams, because the exam where you'll have to write the code or everything will be at the last, and as you know, you have to like fill an answer and then only you can move to the next question. So try and keep some time in reserve for the last question, as it is a bit more challenging than the others and contains more points. Other than that, if you don't think you performed well, don't worry. We have a policy called second chance policy in the course. That is, whatever was the syllabus for exam 1 would be the syllabus for part 1 of the final exam. And if you do better on that part than you did in exam 1, we'll take the best score among the two. But this doesn't mean if you did very well on this one that you can just chill in that part, because it doesn't work the opposite way. You'll still have to do better in that, because this exam score won't replace that one. So anyway, I hope this is clear. If you have any discrepancies about the grading or anything, you can just email me, though I feel I have graded you generously. But yeah, being done with that, let's start with today's recitation. So usually when I was taking this course in person, I didn't used to have any slides for this recitation, because it's a very hands-on recitation and we'll just have one example to go through and we'll learn everything through it. So it was usually I'll just show a picture and it'll go on, but as this is a virtual section, we cannot interact at the same time because it's asynchronous. So we'll have to find our way through. So please bear with me. So the objective or the overview, what we're going to be doing today is understanding event-driven programming. And I'll come to that in the next slide. And we'll be building some graphical user interface, like where a person can interact with your websites. And this makes a job for me a little bit easier, because when I'll be grading your assignment based on this recitation, I'll just run your things and see. I don't have to go through all of your code to see where you missed a bracket or anything. But yeah, it makes your websites more interactive, and you'll have learning new things like text box, radio buttons, which you see on actual websites as well. And we're gonna be adding the functionalities to those buttons. Like if you add a button, like you may have two text boxes, like enter one number, enter second number, where you enter like 1 and 2, and it says like addition, so 1 plus 2. And if you click on the add button, it will display on the output button like the sum of those numbers. So this is just a small example, and we're going to be doing something similar today. So coming to event-driven programming, we define it as a paradigm of programming where the flow of program is determined by the events such as user actions. This is a little bit ambiguous to understand, but to simplify it, I'll say it's a if you go by the words, it's an event driven. So any event in any programming could be like, because earlier in our HTML pages there were no events that were happening, but you can consider like pressing a button an event and it does something. So it's not like your website is static, but it there are some events happening on your web page and it's leading to something else. That could give you maybe a gist of what event driven programming is. So getting started with, I have this file which is just a shell file. You can find it in the recitation files, or you can just copy this code and name the file event driven underscore js.html. It's a simple HTML file. You can just copy the code from the slide and paste it. I have it already with me, so please have that before starting. And this is our objective. So the box you see on the right, That's all we're going to be doing today. And that's all for the recitation. And what it is exactly, some things might seem a bit new to you, but I expect you all to try and make this yourself. All right. So this is for a company called Parallax Motors, and it has closed its 2021 fiscal year, and they want to calculate the total sales for 2021. And based on what are the sales, that are the total sales of 2021, they want an estimate, a high or a low estimate for the 2022 expected sales. So this button you see here, this thing box you see here is a button, and these are called the radio buttons, whereas these are the text boxes. I think apart from these, everything you need to know is what you already know in HTML. Like this just seems like a heading tag with boldness. This is another heading tag. This is just normal, looks like a normal paragraph tag, so nothing new. So how you are going to be doing it is, I want you to do it in two parts. Like first have the interface ready, and then we are going to try and make the buttons work. Okay, so it's going to be done in two steps. So what you will need before starting this is this. So you do not still, you don't know how to add this square or add this square or add this button on HTML. So I'm going to providing you the code. So for the text box, which is this rectangle where you can enter text or you can display text both ways. So this is the code input. This is the tag. If you just copy and paste it, you'll have the text box there. Remember, the type text is should be same, but if you have multiple text boxes, their ID should be different. Otherwise, it won't work properly. So, and try and give like meaningful names. So, for example, for this one, the ID could be like Eastern Division text box. So, Eastern text box or something like that you can have as ID. Similarly, for the Western one, you can have Western ID. Then the button, so like this button, calculate 2021 total. I'd suggest use the bottom one because it's much more easier to understand. So it's a button tag. It's a starting and closing. Again, it has an ID because we only have one button in this. So you can keep the same ID, and you have to have this on click function, but it's going to remain empty for the time being. Okay. And then finally, we have the radio buttons. And what are the radio buttons? These two are the radio buttons. That is, you can click on either one of them and get something here. So when one is active, the other shouldn't be active. This is how radio buttons work. I hope you have seen them in practice on a lot of websites. So like if you click on high, it will be blue. It will have a dot here, and low will not work. And if you click on low, then high will be deactivated. So this is the code. So input type radio. So one interesting thing to notice about it is the names. So because you have to create two radio buttons, you see that their names are same, but their IDs are different. So you can have their names different, but it creates a problem that both can be activated at the same time if they have a different name. So you could have like high and low both, which is a functionality we do not want always. The purpose of radio button is only one is highlighted at a time. So make sure they have the same name, but different ID. And here you'll write like whatever high and low, which is your name for the respective radio buttons. So I think you have all the things to design it. It wouldn't work like now, but you'll have the text boxes and everything visible properly. So you can pause the video right here and try and create this without the working functionality of it, but you can just create this web page for now. You'll need to have the background as yellow. I think you can have that. I have that in the slides as well. So you can come to this slide as well and use the background color yellow. I think you should already know that by now. And this I already discussed. So pause the video here and try and recreate this web page for now. Okay, so if you are back with me, you might have tried I hope you got somewhere along. And let me also get started with it. Fortunately, I won't have to. So this is the shell file where you have would have started with. So I have the initial GUI ready so that we can save our time, but I'll just go through it with you. So I just added the style tag, which you already know, where background color is yellow. I wanted my font size to be a little bit bigger, so it's 20 pixels. Then the parallax motors, which is the H1 tag, sales, Eastern division, and I've named my ID as Eastern. And you see, I've used the same text boxes. This is normal HTML that you already know. Similarly, for buttons, I've done the button on click calculate button. So I've skipped the ID part here is equal to my button. And then we have another text box, which is again like this. So I named it sales 21. So you can have different names for your text boxes. That shouldn't be a problem. And once we have this, I'll just save it and I'll run it and let's see if we have it properly. Okay, so this is our text box. So it very much looks like the picture we had. And now let's see what we can do about the functionality. So let's say the sales were like 100 millions for Western Division, 200 million for sales. So when you click this button, the total sale, which is 300, should get displayed here automatically. Okay, so this would serve as an output text box. So 300 should come out here. You shouldn't have to write it, okay? And when you click for the estimate of 20 or 2022, so for high, a higher estimate, let's say 30%, so that would be 90. So 390 should be displayed. And if you click on low, then 10%, so 330, the expected sales value for this should come. So this is how it should work. So going into it, how can you make it work? Because you don't know it yet. How can we make it work? We learned few things inside the script tag in the last recitation, but let's see some examples of how you can basically make this, or how you can first start to think about it, how to make it work. Okay. So we know JavaScript has variables, right? So you'll have some variable, and let's see what we want to do. So if I go back to this again, 100, 200. So what we want when we click on this button is these two should be added. So this is similar to what we did in the script tag, but here we want to do it differently because we don't have the inputs. So let's say if I had a variable for the Eastern division, let's say Eastern, and Western division Western, which took whatever was entered into these boxes into that variable. If I can put that somehow, I know how to add them in using JavaScript. It's just we cannot add them in HTML. So if you notice in the last recitation we discussed HTML cannot do any operations. So in JavaScript we'll add those two variables whenever this button is clicked, and we'll push that out to this text box. So if we can do that successfully, we are done here. And similarly for high and low, if high is activated, we want to take whatever is there in this text box, save it into a variable and give the high estimate. So if it's 30%, we can just multiply it by 1.3 and display it out here. Similarly for low, when it's activated, we take whatever the output was here for 2021 sales and multiply it by 10% and give the 1.1 into whatever the output was here in the 2022 expected sale. So going verbally, I hope you got a little bit of the logic what I'm trying to say. I'll also tell you how to do certain parts of it, but the whole of it, I think you should implement on your own. So going back to the slides. So for the total button, I'll show you how to do that. And for high and low, you should do it by yourself. So we'll enter the JavaScript code to calculate the total sales on click value. So first thing is how to get your inputs. Like how can I get the 100 which is entered here, or maybe next time if 1000 is entered here, or like 500 is entered here. So whatever is entered here, I want to get it. And this is where the ID help us. So if you see the Eastern division, we have this ID, right? Eastern. So this is how this ID will help me get the value, whatever is there in the text box. And where we have to write our code exactly in JavaScript is inside the onClick. And just give some space to write the code. And now what we want is get the input from both the boxes, add them together and put it out to the third box, which is the 2021 sales. So let's see, what do we have in slides? So we'll have a variable. So let's say variable total 2021. So this is my name. You can have any other name. And what I want it to be, how can I get the value of Eastern and Western text boxes is Eastern, which is the ID. So make sure these are the same. So if you have anything else as your ID name there, you'll have that here as well. So because mine is Eastern, I'll have Eastern dot value. If it was like Eastern 2, then I'll have like Eastern 2 dot value. So the name doesn't matter as soon as you, as long as you use it correctly everywhere you need it. And we want to add it to Western dot value. But as we saw in the last recitation, it treats it as JavaScript treats that as a text. So we want we want to tell JavaScript that whatever we are going to be entering there is going to be numbers and it's not going to be like alphabets or anything. So using the number function, we can do that. So just add number around it. So this tells JavaScript that whatever is coming from the text boxes is a number. And now that we have got the sum of them, we want to display it in the output. And where is the output? It should be here. So we can just take the ID of this text box and we can do that like sales 2021 dot value. So again, we are accessing its value and we are saying it that it should be equal to the total 2021. And don't forget to close this with semicolon. So this is what we have. And let's see if our button works. So I saved it and I'll reload my page. And let's see, I have 100 and I have 200. And if I click on calculate total, it gives me 300. So see, it was just as simple. We just take the two values, add them and push it out to the output box. So now for the second part that you have to attempt is the radio buttons. Okay, so the code for the radio buttons is here. So again, you're gonna be writing your code here in the on clicks of them, on click of the two buttons. And what you want to do is might have one variable like this, which takes the value from where sales 2021 dot value. So like you took here, so maybe have number sales 2021 dot value and give the high estimate, which would be like 30% more than the 2021 value, and then push that out to the sales 2022 box. And similarly for low, again take from here the value which is there in this text box, multiplied by 1.1, which is the 10% estimate, 10% growth in sales, and push that out to sales 22 again. So we are pushing them out to the same thing based on whichever is active at the time. Okay. So again, if you want to see it, I've written the mathematical version of it. And You can just pause the video and try it on your own here. Okay, if you got a chance to attempt it, good. If you are stuck somewhere, then you can follow me. So what to do here? So as I said, we can have the values again. So let's say I have a variable I estimate and I say it will be equal to, so I take the value from this text box because I want the higher estimate based on the 2021 sales. So it will be number and sales 2021 dot value. So this will give me the value, which is the total sales of 2021. And now what I want to do is have the 30% estimate, higher estimate. So I'll multiply it by 1.3, multiplying. So this is how we multiply. And after I have this number, I want to push it out to the sales 2022 text box, which is the output box. I'll say sales 2022 dot value is equal to my high estimate. And similarly, for my low estimate, okay, I forgot to add the semicolon again. And this is the 10%, and this should have a different name. So this will be low estimate. So this is again taking the value from this box, multiplying it by 1.1 because the 10% higher would be a lower estimate, and pushing it out again to the sales one. So let's check if it works or not. So I'll save it. I'll come to my text box. I'll say 100, 200 total I got. And when I click on high, it gives me 390, which is the 30%. And if I click on low, it gives me 330. So you see only one of them is active at a time, and we have both the different values for it. Okay. So just going through this again, I hope I could break it down to you in simpler terms, or you can just pause the video and see the code if you want. Main thing I'll just go over again. What are the main concepts here? So we defined our text boxes using the input type text. Make sure if you are using more text boxes, then you have different IDs for them. Button was simple, we had one ID. If you are again using multiple buttons, have different IDs for them. Again, this is a text box again, which we are using to display output as well as input. Here it's doing both the same things because we display the sum of these as an output here, but we take it as an input for the other radio button boxes. Then these are the radio buttons. And one main thing to remember that is radio buttons will have the same name, but different IDs. Why same name? Because we only want one of them to be active at the same time. So let's say if I do estimate 2, I change they have different names. Let's see what happens then. So if I click on high, this works, but low. So you see both of them can be active at the same time. So this doesn't look very good because we only want one to be active. And that's why we have the same names. I save it and do again. See, now only one is active at a time. And we just created variables here and took the values. So how we got the values was through the IDs. So Eastern2 dot value gave us that value in the text box. We converted that to a number and added to the value from the Western text box as a number. Once we got the answer in our variable, we pushed it out to this using its ID again. So see, ID is very important here. So says 2021 dot value will be equal to the variable that I have. And all this is happening inside the on click of the button. So on click What onClick is, it tells the JavaScript to run when the button is clicked. And that's like more evident from the name as well, onClick. And similarly for the radio buttons, whenever one is highlighted, the onClick gets activated and it's run this JavaScript code that is gets the value from here multiplied by 1.3 and push it out towards here's 2022 text box. So this was all for today's recitation. It was a bit short, but it's an important concept that you should know and practice. Again, more resources are available. Don't forget to mark your attendance and let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you. And this will be the end of this recitation, and I'll see you all next week.